Hello, welcome, Duffy. Where are we?
It's already starting.
Wait, start over. Oh, we can't. We're live.
Right.
So welcome to Fempreneur True Confessions podcast. I'm Angelique.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Laura. And I happen to be the owner of ODAA Virtual Assistant Agency. We are a small boutique style business that helps small businesses with the behind the scenes tasks and projects that need to get accomplished and done. So we focus on that work for you so you can focus on your superpower in business.
And I'm Angelique with Lady Powerhouse Solutions. And Lady Powerhouse Solutions is a heart centered approach to project and event management, specifically for women entrepreneurs that are just on fire, lighting up the world with their passion and drive to achieve their missions. And we help them do that in the most authentic way possible.
Wonderful. And together we are Fempreneur True Confessions podcast. And our mission is to empower women in business as well as in life to live authentically. And so it went to shit from there. Sorry, everyone. So to live authentically and to support each other instead of competing with each other.
Yeah,
So
that's
we
really
do this. We just model authenticity, both
if you can't tell.
personally and in business, right? Oh, I get there. No, but we do it for both personal relationships and business. The idea of separating that out just isn't something we focus on. We're here to empower women and hope that they see the value in living authentically as well, and in that community vibe that we are trying to build on in
Yeah,
women
yeah,
business.
yeah. We're trying to model what it looks like when women succeed at supporting each other. Like, what does that look like? This is what it looks like. This is what authenticity looks like. There are giggle fits. There are words not coming out correctly. This is real.
Absolutely.
Uh, I
Wonderful.
don't know why I didn't want to say the word shit, but right there, but I didn't. But this is the real shit.
Right.
So, but the podcast is about normalizing the struggles and sharing the lessons that women entrepreneurs are learning, so that and the goal is so that we can lift other women up and um just again model what it looks like when we kind of share information. And why should we have to learn the same lessons that someone else has already learned? And so that's why we like to have the guests on here and talk about, okay, what was one of your most recent or biggest struggles you've ever had, and what did you learn from it? Share what you learned so maybe another woman doesn't have to go through the same thing. And so many times, Laura, with these guests, we go, "Oh, me too," or "Oh my God, yeah, I remember doing that," or I've done that, or I've done something similar." Right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's interesting. The further we go into it, the more we realize that we do struggle with a lot of the same things, different
Yeah.
varieties and versions of it, but the
So if
same.
we start talking about it, then maybe the next generation won't have to struggle as hard or as much or in the
Exactly.
same way.
Mhm.
They'll gain some tidbit of wisdom from our mistakes. So we're here to build, maintain, and grow a sisterhood that believes in an abundance mindset, sharing our challenges and helping each other rise to our highest potential. And today, introduce our guest today.
So today we have Megan here with us. Megan Miller is the CEO of ApproveChar.
Aprovechar.
ApproveChar? Okay, perfect. ApproveChar Language Solutions LLC, a company which acts as a bridge between English and Spanish language learners. Her personalized and small group programs take a habit based approach, and whether it's in class or a book club, you know you will have fun. She also helps small businesses within the U.S. work at their most efficient and effective levels through bespoke IT consulting and process management. Megan has a bachelor in Spanish language, literature, and culture, and is certified to teach English as a foreign language. Welcome, Megan.
Welcome, Megan.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. It's so stormy outside, so you guys are my sunshine for today.
Aw, nice. I like
Yay.
that. Thank you.
You too.
Reminds me of that song. You are my sunshine, my sunshine.
We sing that a lot.
I'm gonna have that song in my head for the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hopefully it's good.
Where are you at, Megan, that it's storming?
I am based in Maryland, but I think we all kind of work very similarly in that when we're completely virtual, it doesn't necessarily matter where you are. But
No.
I get to work with a lot of wonderful people from all over the US and really all over the world. And because of that, I have like a running list of time zones in my head, but I'm East Coast time here in the US.
Yeah.
Me too. Laura, I'm in Florida. Laura's in Oklahoma.
Central time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have storms coming in again. Last week, we were out of power for several days because of storms that came through. And I was just advised today that tonight we're supposed to have another one of those storms coming through. And every time I look outside and it starts to get dark or the trees start to blow, I'm like, please no.
Not again.
It's 101 degrees here, and the last thing we need is to be without air conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again.
Again. Right.
Yeah. Laura spent quite a mini day last week without power. So, all right, well, let's dig into it. So one of the topics you brought to the table, Megan, was this idea of our business being evolutionary and kind of like our life, right? And our personal growth. Like we're hopefully continually kind of improving as a person. And, our businesses aren't much different. And shouldn't they be just as dynamic as we are, right? And so you wanted to talk a little bit about what you've learned about your personal business revolution, personal growth revolution, and leaning into that and trusting that enough to be okay with not being in control. And I really liked the use of those words because I don't happen to be a control freak at all. If you guys can't see me and you can't hear that sarcasm, that's what that was.
Yeah, there's a spreadsheet for everything. And when everything is in its own spreadsheet, it gives you a sense of control. Mm-hmm. And without that control, it's just it's a lot of fear. It's a lot of anxiety. If there's one thing that the universe has forced me to learn, it is that businesses are meant to evolve. And actually, I'm running into this right now, currently this week. A friend of mine is starting to kind of consult part-time and figure out what that is and what that looks like, and just freaking out about every single decision. What should I charge and how should I do it? And I need a logo and I need this and I need that. And it just reminds me so much of those early days of Aprovechar when I said, well, I can't do this until I do that. And I can't do that until I do this. And it was this obstacle course that I've made for myself. And really, it took a lot of people telling me, well, why not? And challenging that. And it took a lot of moments of, it doesn't have to be this way forever. It can be this way for right now. And whether we decide things in business or in life, I think sometimes we think of those decisions as permanent things, without forgetting or without remembering that time is fluid and dynamic, and it's okay to be dynamic. And when I started Aprovechar, I was doing one-on-one Spanish coaching full time. Didn't have a full-time client roster, but that was the only thing that I offered. I was like, hey, you look like me. You want to habla español? Okay, like, let's go. Let's meet. And had really wonderful clients. And then I started thinking about how to grow and how to scale. And the English part came in. And the English part came in, and I was like, oh, well, I need to be certified to teach English as a foreign language or English as a second language. And the universe was like, no, you don't. Here's a client. So I was teaching class and going through the certification process at the same time. It's not like there's language police,
Right.
but I act like it sometimes.
Yeah. We act like there's a lot of
I don't
police
want to get caught.
departments for things that there aren't. Like, there's not a police department for, the refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I think we like the laws because we've been taught to obey the laws, and here's our structure and here's our rigidity, and you start work at 5 or 8, and then you work until 5, and after that it's your leisure time. But the thing is life happens in between.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, you work, I don't know, sometimes I'll work until 1:00 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going into work and logging in at 8:00 the next day unless I absolutely need to. And it's that trust, I think, in ourselves that we are creating and producing valuable work, valuable insights, and all this other rigidity and structure and stuff. We don't necessarily need it as much as we think we do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, of course, there are certain personality types that need it more than others.
Sure.
And I think too, I was an only child, and a lot was out of my control. And so organizing and being structured is a way of making myself feel safe. List making is a way of making us feel safe and not so overwhelmed, because now it's not all blah, 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 up here. It's all blah, 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 blah on the paper, which we can then go, okay, that I've transferred it from my brain to the paper. I don't have any dogs. We're safe, to eat my homework. So, when you say leaning into it, what does that mean to you, or how did that work for you?
Well, I have to preface with the notion that, especially as a child, I was taught that if you had a problem, it was very much similar to a parakeet, where you put a blanket over the cage, act like it's not a problem, and then you walk away. I am very good at avoiding. I will do everything but the one thing that I need to do because I'm going to avoid it. It doesn't feel good, so I want to avoid it. And part of that everything was me learning about neuroscience and basic psychology, because I'm like, oh, this is so fascinating. And also my brain is broken and I want to fix it.
Your brain isn't broken. Your brain is not broken.
That's what I found, but it felt like it, right? Because logically, okay, I'm doing all of these things. I know that if I do the one thing, that's going to move me forward, but I'm still going to avoid it because it doesn't feel good. And it's like, okay, well, how can I get around that? Or how can I, bring the emotional side of myself to match the logical side of myself and say, yes, this is the one thing that's holding me back. Let's just set a timer for 2 minutes or play one song with a really good beat. And when that song is done, like musical chairs, I can be done. And it's like little things like that I've kind of learned.
I like that.
avoiding is still a default. And so to me, the leaning in is the opposite of the avoiding. Avoiding is like, oh no, we don't see it. But leaning in is like, yes, there is a bird in a cage underneath that blanket. It's not just a weird piece of furniture. Maybe we
Here,
should
listen
do
to some music.
Right.
Birds like music. I had a bird once.
Yeah.
We won't talk about why I don't have a bird anymore. So I feel you, because I get overwhelmed. Like, I get overwhelmed with all the things that, not just that need to be done, but the things I want to do are there too. It's all in there. It's all, and I look at it and I go, well, there's where do I start? And because I've done the same thing. It's like, well, I don't really want to do that, so I'm gonna go do this over here.
Yep.
And I do the similar, tricks. If you've ever read, it's the Habits book. What's the name of it?
Charles Duhigg's, or is it James? I think
Atomic
it's James.
Habits.
Yeah, Atomic Habits.
Yes, he talks about habit stacking.
Yep.
And how you kind of, sandwich an existing habit with a new habit and a reward. And then once you get accustomed to that, then you add another habit, and then the reward. So you've got habit, reward. Before, you just had the one habit, and then you added the second habit. By knowing after that, I get a reward. So cool. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, moving right along. You talked about I liked what you put in your topics. And so when we are looking for guests, which we're always looking for guests, we ask them to fill out a little questionnaire. And one of the things we say is, what kind of topics do you want to talk about? And one of the things you wanted to talk about was the YouTubers and the sales bros.
Oh, yeah. So when I was in corporate, I worked in private equity real estate. And talk about gaslighting. I'm like, oh man, is everyone that I work with just an asshole, or is it me? Like that kind of summed up a lot of the things. And when I went to start a business, of course, I didn't really know when the right time was. And, I signed on to this program. Mixed feelings. I'm glad that I did it, because it got the little, fire lit under me that's like, get off your ass and do this. It taught me what not to do and what didn't feel good, and all of the things. And the sales bros and the YouTubers, and just like, make 7 figures in 5 days, or things like that. I think that we're getting a lot more cynical about them now. At least the folks that I talk to in my circle are like, yeah, it's not worth my time. It's not worth my energy or my money. But they're still out there. It's like glitter and herpes. Like, it's still out there. And it just spreads. And it's not good.
I love that. Was perfect.
It's just not good, because it's not authentic. And talk about an evolution. How I do sales is very authentic. It's like, do you want this more than anything? Are you willing to virtually trust fall? Okay, let's do it. We're going in. Because when I'm in your corner, I'm in your corner. What I don't want to do is I look back at some of the old LinkedIn messages and things that I used to send in 2020, and I just want to vomit. Whereas like all volume, sending cold messages, sending cold emails, it didn't feel good. And
Yeah.
quite honestly, it probably didn't look good. And as karma, I have those messages coming now to my junk email. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yep, block them, block them, block them.
Yeah.
Because
When
businesses
somebody,
are
I,
relationships.
yeah, when people on, like, especially LinkedIn's especially bad. Alignable, not so much, but LinkedIn, um, they request to connect with me, and I'm like, sure, I'll connect with just about anybody until you give me a reason not to be connecting
Yeah.
to you.
Right.
But if you don't wait, like, put some effort into actually getting to know me before you try and sell me your thing, goodbye.
Yeah. Well, it's like going up to a different family reunion and going, "Hey, do you want to hear about me?"
Right.
Who does that?
Right.
We can be kind of trained, or we can buy into that idea to do it on the internet. To basically go to somebody else's kid's birthday party and be like, "Hey, this is what I do." And it's like
Yeah.
no one asked. Like,
Yeah.
how are you as a person? Let's find something to talk about there first.
Absolutely. That makes sense.
I love that. And I love the analogy because it really puts it in perspective. If you're in a real live event, you walk up and go, "Hey, so I'm really great at this.
Right.
And I sell it for this much. It's going to change your life." And they give me the cool Jesus. No, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. But it's when I started thinking about the relationships, my whole approach to sales, my whole approach to business is just and it continues to evolve because now it's similar. I know logically what I need to do, and I need to get the emotion to catch up to it, because I think at its core we have that fear of rejection, and it's very prevalent, especially if you have never done any sales things at all. And to kind of become confident in that, it's a journey. It's not something that will happen in 5 days for 7 figures.
Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
So while we're still talking about sales, you mentioned, the failure of a few different launches, and I think that's what you were talking about in the Facebook or the LinkedIn messages and things like that, and how cringy that you look back and how cringy that is now to you. And that's part of the evolution, is like we evolve and we mature. And I'm going to sneeze, so I might mute here in a second. Can feel it, it's coming. But um lost my train of thought. You know how it is, like,
It's
you.
that evolution, though. It's the concentric circles. I mean, business is business, right? I want to make a
Yeah.
living. I want to help people, and I continue to chase those light bulbs of, oh my God, I get this now. Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
And it's still that concentric circle, because that's what I started out day one. Bless you.
Bless
Let's see, that's what? Vida, amor, salud. So when somebody sneezes 3 times in Spanish, and I forget there we go. Now you have all of it. Now you have life
I always sneeze in
and
threes.
health and
Yeah.
and love.
I will take it. Bring it on.
you.
Come on,
Right.
baby.
Just from sneezing. So yeah, like I guess really what I'm trying to say is, the objectives haven't changed for me. I want to
Just the
help people. I
way
want to
we,
help people
yeah.
understand and learn and get this to that they love it as much as I do, or they love it for them, not just because I tell them to. But the way that I do it totally evolved. Hopefully it's evolved.
You feel like it's evolved. And
Yeah.
yeah, and really yeah, it does matter to the person, the receiving person, but really you as the person that is the brand, that's important.
Yeah.
That you feel it so that you can reflect it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's a really hard, our body language gives us away, our tone of voice gives us away. I have a good friend of mine, and when she first started watching the podcast, she would text me afterward and go, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I'd be like, "Why?" She goes, "Oh, I could tell you're off today. You got a headache? What's going on?" And she was right, because she knows my body language.
Yep.
She knows my tells. But she'll also go, "Girl, you on fire today," or whatever, when I'm having a good day, right?
Yeah.
And we all have those good days and bad days.
Exactly, because we're all human.
Uh-huh. And that's life, right? It's not like this.
And
if it's that way for you, you may be dead.
Well, and I think we're so used to like computers and technology. We're just used to like, okay, well, if I do this, this happens. And in nature, that doesn't necessarily happen. I mean, I had this moment with my 2 office plants, and it's like, well, I thought that I was watering them, and like the frequency might have been good, but I wasn't watering them enough. But it's not a binary, if I water, then they'll grow. It's like, you gotta feel it out. You gotta get used to it. You gotta check on
Depends on the plant.
Depends on the plant. Yep. Waffles' needs are different than Billy Gibbons's needs, because it's a waffle plant versus a ZZ plant. So
yeah. Yeah, I've got pothead over here, my pothos. And I got my spider plant. And and then I have this, I think it's called mother-in-law's tongue, and it doesn't look like it's grown one iota.
I have one of those, and it's the same struggle. I just kind of stare at
Meanwhile, Spidey's like, woo, all over the place.
Those are the ones
we the same. They're in the same window. What, Laura?
I said those are the ones we need in our house, that no matter what you do, they're going to kind of grow,
That's called a cactus.
Yeah, would not recommend bonsai plants.
No. Whoa. Like, that's like, what's a gaming term for like the super high level one, right?
Ken Jennings.
We haven't earned the tokens for that yet. Yeah. Okay, let's get that mother-in-law over 2 inches, and then we'll talk about the bonsai. Yeah. Patricia Bajork is on YouTube. She says hello, and she was evidently with me when I struggled with saying "shit happens," and she did it for me. Thanks, Patricia.
Good job.
She did.
Patricia, I'm proud.
Yeah. Your fans know you and love you. Where you are, it's a beautiful thing. And we appreciate those who follow us, especially on YouTube. All right. So before we wrap up, let's talk about how you keep yourself accountable as a solopreneur, because I'm also a solopreneur. I have a small team, but they're all contractors, right? And subcontractors. So, and I'm not at the point where I have a team of people that I can go to, but not very many people am I paying every single month. And I really like this idea. So I want to spend a little time, a few minutes on it. So what's the story behind that? Like, were you struggling to stay accountable, or?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, starting 2 businesses within a global pandemic is probably not the best idea, but I did. And with that, I was also trying to, I talked a little bit about like society's kind of rigidity rules. And one of my tells is I am either on one side or I am on the other. There is no gray. I am either black or I am white, no gray. So for a while, I was struggling with the accountability perspective because coming from corporate, I mean, you have your KPIs and you have, I think the first year I was in business, I created a PowerPoint and I gave it to my husband and I said, this is what I've done. This is what, all those hours up in my office were about, because I just wanted to have someone to share it with and say,
Mm.
you know, blame it on the Protestantism or the Calvinism or whatever kind of history of the US. Like, we don't treat lazy people well. So we want to avoid being lazy. If you're productive, you're
Mm.
worthy. It's how I
Yeah.
kind of grew up. And so I was chasing those tick boxes on the checklists, and
Yep.
I was doing all
Real
of the
same.
things and staying really busy and not really feel like I was moving things forward. I wasn't doing the hard things. I was just doing all of the things, all of the easy things, and once again, avoiding. So now I have a good system, a good process that I use at the end of every day, at the end of every week, and at the end of every month, that I kind of look and I figure out, and this can change, what I'm really going for. So that might be, more social engagement. That might be more emails on my email list. Might have had a freebie. I'm currently writing a book. So it's like, what did I do for those big things? And collecting the metrics, because metrics take the emotion out of it. And then I also write down the emotions. Oh, I was really overwhelmed this week.
Mm-hmm.
Or, oh, like I got, distracted, or, the dog puked and that took an hour to clean up, or whatever happened.
Mm-hmm.
I can keep that in kind of the qualitative log. And the quantitative log are those metrics and the numbers that I track over time. And
Yeah.
that's been life changing, business changing for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And sorry, Laura. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was moving on to the next subject
Oh.
as we're wrapping things up. Um, we've talked about this on the podcast before, but giving ourselves grace and allowing ourselves to have patience with not just the business and clients and things like that, but also with ourselves. This has been a big lesson for me over the past year, as I am moving into, just a very different way of living, than, and it not just about work, but just in general. Um, so for you, define for you what that means. Um, how did you come up with your new definition, for giving yourself grace, and what that means to you?
Well, I mean, for me, a lot of it was taking myself out of the jacuzzi of negative thoughts, because I would just sit and like simmer and kind of boil in
Mm.
there. And when I got myself out of that jacuzzi hot tub of negative thoughts, um, and I started reframing those thoughts, I was like, oh, I'm really being very hard on myself. Like, I wouldn't say this crap to a friend. Why am I saying it to
Right,
myself?
right.
And it's not like a video game where you go to the next level and then you never have to think about it again. You're thinking about it and confronting it every day. And so for me, it was a lot of like, is there a big prevalent thought that I'm, reframing, as long as, catching all the shoulds and the buts and the yets and the, all of the, hey, I
Mm.
did really good. And then I'm going to immediately discount it kind of
Right.
thing. So it was a lot of catching that. But really, if I can sum up grace and patience, it would be discomfort. I am not a patient person, um, at all. Like, I pray no one ever has to drive with me because I am so impatient. The light has turned green. We should be going. Why are you not going? Get out of your phone. Let's go. We're on the road. we have a focus.
Mm-hmm.
And it's uncomfortable.
You're on a mission.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I was brought up to be very efficient. Um, and it makes me uncomfortable to be patient. I mean, even talking about it kind of makes my neck red. And
Ooh.
sitting with the discomfort has become a pastime. It's not one I enjoy. It's not one that I really look forward to. But if I can sit there and just breathe with it for 30 seconds, life continues on.
Yeah.
And it no longer, it's, walking and all of a sudden you get your sleeves stuck on a railing or something and you're like, oh, fold back. It's no longer like that. You can walk through whatever muck and shit that happen because you've already sat with that discomfort. And it's like once you've already sat with it, you no longer really need to avoid it. So it's a lot easier to just continue on.
Have you studied any Buddhism at all?
One of my good internet friends, Lauren Schifrin, wrote a book called The Buddha and the Bard. And that is the extent that I've studied Buddhism because I love Shakespeare.
Ah, very cool. That's nice.
Yeah, she
The
married
Buddha and the Bard.
Buddhism and Shakespeare's plays. It's
That's
highly recommended.
really okay. We will drop a link for that. The reason I asked is because I discovered a particular Buddhist monk. Her name is Pema Chodron. And when I discovered her, it was on an audio book. And it was one of those little samples. I listened to it. And I was like, oh, I have to hear more. I have to hear more. And it wasn't just her voice, but it was the way she told the stories. And these are stories that have been told for literally hundreds of years. But that's one of the Buddhist practices is sitting in that discomfort and breathing through it. And what that does is it makes you realize it doesn't kill you. You do survive. And you gain a perspective and a relationship with discomfort that allows you to push that. So the next time you can do something that's even more uncomfortable and it feels just as hard, but that's because you're doing something more uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get, for lack of a better word, better at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Discomfort is a skill
so,
that you can get better at. And I'll just
yeah,
tell a very short story. When I first started, and I would have, moments of, I would do a meetup or a group facilitation or, really try to put myself out there or do even a YouTube video, God forbid. And at the end, I would sit with at the time we had a very new COVID puppy. I would sit with Norman underneath my desk and I would just like hold him for a moment and be like, I know that you hate this, bud, but he was not very cuddly at first, but I'm like, I know that you hate this, but I need this.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even today, I sent an email. It was not what I really wanted to say. Things did not work out the way that I really wanted or had hoped for. And I just kind of curled my lip, made a face, said, oh, I don't like this. And I moved on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that discomfort. There can be varying levels of discomfort, but hopefully none of them will kill you and you can move on and find more.
And that's, if we don't get uncomfortable, we can't grow.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite literal. As when we were kids, we had growing pains because we were literally growing so fast. Our body was like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've realized in my old age that, all these things all this pain that I've been through and grief, it's taught me valuable lessons. I'm that's why old women are so wise. because I've been through shit.
Oh yes, because you
Right?
guys have
We've had
seen
decades of practice.
shadows, and it's really when you see the shadows, can you appreciate the light?
Exactly.
And when you see the light, you know exactly what it is and what it's there for.
Yeah. I love that. That's great. Patricia just made some comments here about the difficulty being isolated, recognizing old messages. Yeah. And she said self-awareness and grace are crucial for remote workers. Megan, you are doing a great job. Address that shit right away and keep moving forward.
Thank you,
Amen, sister.
Patricia.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, that about wraps it up. Megan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's a wonderful time.
So one of the things we like to do is, I skipped ahead. I'm sorry, Laura, it's your turn. Dang, it's a good thing we have an outline, or I'll be like, all right, bye, guys. We wouldn't talk about any of the other stuff.
Totally miss whatever we needed to say. All right, everyone. So we do have a couple of freebies, and we always encourage you guys to go in and take advantage of that. There's so many good things that our guests bring to the table, and being willing to give freebies and do great things for our audience. We're always very appreciative of it. So, Megan, here we have get her free parking list free packing list. To make sure you are
write down that blooper.
Bloopers, yeah. Make sure you're in a good mental space before you travel this summer. Everything but the kitchen sink, especially for those who want to overpack or over prepare. And we will have a link for that. And then Megan also has a podcast for people who have always wanted to learn Spanish, but life got in the way. So you can learn Spanish one word at a time, labeled
Una palabra sola. So just one word.
Okay. I'm going to let that one go. So for the one Spanish word, that's the focus of
That's Spanish for just one word.
Just one word. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So grow your vocabulary and find your voice in Espanol. So
I really love that idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to start listening.
Yes.
I'm like,
can't wait. I go into kind of the history and the etymology and synonyms, and then really like how to practice that word and where the word actually shows up. So it's not just something like hola. It can be something like útil, which means very useful. And it's like, oh, is something useful? You can always say, oh, es útil.
Yeah, that's útil.
Yeah.
What you just said is very whatever that word is. Okay, so one of the things we like to do, we're moving on, is have the current guest introduce the next guest. And next week's guest is Theodora Voss.
And Theodora is a Texas transplant originally from California and now living and loving life in the Lone Star State. So much alliteration. I love it. A proud cat mama with an ear for music, a creative spirit, and a love for helping others. Above all, grateful and mindful, never taking anything for granted. Theodora Voss is indeed a game changer, armed with years of experience creating courses and coaching tech executives in Silicon Valley. Theodora has extended her wisdom to challenge the outdated mode of friendship. Her own struggles with friendship challenges allowed her to glean deeper insight into identifying more effective ways for people to do friendships. What's more remarkable is that instead of keeping this to herself, Theodora is making her expertise widely available, helping others break up with the old ways of doing friendships. So her new approach enables people to create lasting and meaningful bonds, which in turn fosters remarkable transformations and revolutionizes the way people build friendships.
Nice.
Awesome. We kind of talked about that today a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit. You know, building a relationship with somebody before you go, hey, will you buy my thing?
So yes, just at
So
least ask what kind of drinks they like to drink before asking.
yeah.
When
Yeah.
will you buy my thing?
Right.
All right, guys. Well, our ask this week is to make sure that you're signed up for our newsletter. We do weekly sneak peeks for upcoming guests and a monthly recap of all the awesome resources that our guests share with us. So we will see you next week. Same bat channel, same bat time.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.